Hey everyone, welcome back to Harp and Guitar, People and Music, and welcome back to another episode of Whiskey's Blues Gumbo. This is the show where we take strange or unusual sounding blues words or phrases that you may hear in a blues song, and we try to figure out what the heck they are talking about. And today I want to cover off two words that are sort of interchangeable, or that is to say, they often get confused, or they get sort of misfiled or misclassified. And those two words are hoodoo and voodoo. Now I'm going to start off with voodoo. And basically, and this is just sort of the Cliff Notes or the Coles Notes, the abbreviated definition of this, because I mean, this could be an hour-long video otherwise. But basically what voodoo is a sort of an Americanized turn of the sort of turn of the century in terms of the 1700s into the 1800s form of religion that had its origins in West Africa. Now, many of the tribes in a lot of the countries in Western Africa all practiced a very similar form of religion called Voodoo, which was later sort of evolved or changed into Voodoo. And this was a type of religion that, while depending on the tribe or the area in West Africa, was for the most part very much the same. And it's a very, very ancient religion, and basically it revolved around sort of a central deity, sort of a creator or a higher being. And then below that, you had different deities or different gods depending on what you're talking about. So you'd have, the god of the harvest, a god of water, a god of the earth, a god of your home, of your family, all kinds of stuff like that. And you would pray to and make offerings to each one of these individual gods depending on what sort of result you wanted. And then, of course, overall you would pay homage to this higher overall creator, this supreme being. Now, the religion morphed and changed over the decades and over the centuries as Africans were brought over during the slave trade to the New World. The two main changes were, first of all, in the Caribbean, especially in Haiti. And that's where voodoo really kind of made its first sort of shift. And that was because the slave owners who had plantations, the sugar cane plantations and whatnot, in Haiti, did not want the slaves practicing their ancient religions. They wanted to bring the primitive peoples and help them to become Christianized. So a lot of the practices were banned. A lot of the religious practices and customs were banned. Which, of course, what happens when something's banned, it ends up kind of going underground and going undercover. And that's sort of a running theme that we talk about here all the time at Whiskey's Blues Gumbo, where, the blues itself has double entendre and double meanings and all of that sort of thing. And the same thing goes with voodoo. And the reason for this was because of the Christian misconception that voodoo practices were a form of devil worship, because they didn't understand the hierarchical structure of this ancient religion. They thought it was blasphemous and Satan worshipping or devil worshipping to worship to a bunch of different gods, as opposed to just having the one overall grand creator, if you will. Now again, as the decades and the centuries progressed and more slaves were brought onto the mainland of the United States in the South to work on cotton plantations, corn farms, tobacco farms, again, sugar cane farms, turpentine work camps, and all that sort of thing. It remained hidden and it remained undercover, but it still remained quite practiced. And to this very day, voodoo, the religion, the formal structured religion of voodoo, is still practiced by over 2 million Americans in the United States. And again, it hasn't changed that much because it was kept undercover, and it was practiced and it was cherished by these people in terms of they wanted to sort of retain some sort of connection to their homeland and to their ancestors and to their peoples. And it was diluted, it was watered down, it did evolve and change over the decades and over the centuries, but the underlying core ideology of the religion remained intact. Um, Now, with that, there also came a lot of um, sort of healing practices, right? Much like in, let's say, Southern Baptist churches, they're laying your healing hands upon somebody. You are healed. Well, that sort of thing was done in voodoo as well, but it used different herbs and sort of things like, different holistic medicines, and all of that was attached to formalized voodoo worship and voodoo practice as well. And that's where the confusion lies, because now we slip into hoodoo. And hoodoo is basically what a lot of people think of when they think of voodoo. When they think of voodoo, they're actually confusing it with hoodoo. And hoodoo is all of the spells and the sort of the black magic and the voodoo dolls and the mojo hands, the mojo sacks, the mojo charms, the different elixirs and love potions, and putting curses or hexes on people and that sort of thing. And that's not voodoo, that is hoodoo. And hoodoo is not a religion. Hoodoo is sort of the ritualized practice of spells or curses or conjurings that sort of brings up or reminds one of the images of zombies coming to life, or again the voodoo doll where you put pins in the doll of the likeness of somebody and that sort of thing. And that all of that stuff is hoodoo. And hoodoo, much like voodoo, was fairly commonly practiced again in the Caribbean, and then once the slave trade was moved over into the mainland United States in the very, very late 1700s, early 1800s. And that was because hoodoo was sort of a branch off, or came out of voodoo. Again, the voodoo using herbs and holistic healing. And that aspect of voodoo evolved into hoodoo, where again you're still using herbs and different enchantments, enchantments and different sort of conjurings and that sort of thing, and songs and rituals. But they were used in a non-religious way. They were used in more of a superstition type of ideology. And everything from, and I've talked about this here before, goofer dust or goober dust, to mojos, to potions, to curses, anything that you could to either turn the tide of life in your favor or turn the tide of life against somebody who you don't like or you felt had slighted you in some way. And again, much like voodoo, hoodoo is taken very seriously still to this day and is still practiced, especially in the Deep South, in around Cajun country and the Creoles, in Louisiana, in the Florida Everglades, in parts of Alabama and Georgia, Texas and Arkansas, but most especially in Louisiana and Florida. It seems for some reason wherever there's sort of swamplands and bayous and that sort of thing, it's very conducive to the hoodoo practice. And I think a lot of that has to do with not only the ritualized traditions of hoodoo, but a lot of the herbs, a lot of the plant life that's used in hoodoo spells and rituals. A lot of that stuff has been used for centuries because it only grows in that region of the United States. So in early blues, and actually a lot of times even in blues right up till this day, but especially in early blues, 30s through to say the 70s roughly, you hear a lot of blues artists singing about or making reference to both voodoo and hoodoo. And they use the terms interchangeably, and I think that's where a lot of the confusion lies, because for example, Junior Wells sings about the hoodoo man, but then other blues artists will sing about voodoo priestesses and voodoo curses and that sort of thing. And again, curses have nothing to do with voodoo. Curses are hoodoo. So there you go. Hopefully that clarifies these two terms, and hopefully I didn't add chaos to confusion here. But yeah, you have Voodoo, which is the religion, and Hoodoo, which is sort of superstitious practices, more of like the the curses and that sort of thing. So that's going to do it here today for Whiskey's Blues Gumbo. As always, let us know what you think down in the comments section below. And on behalf of myself and my partner in crime here at Harp and Guitar, I want to thank you all for your support. And I want to wish a very heartfelt welcome and thank you very much to all of our new subscribers. Hello. I've been seeing quite a few new faces around here lately. So thank you very much for your support. Appreciate that as always. Give the video a like. And as always, if you come across any kind of strange, weird, or unusual blues term or phrase that you're not familiar with and you want to find out what the heck they're talking about, just drop us a line here at Harp and Guitar and be more than happy to look into it for you. So that's going to do it here for today. Once again, thank you very much. Have yourselves a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right? Take care. Bye-bye.